Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Let's go. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another movie review. I am your boy, Seth Grimes, fresh out of the theater, coming back from the brand new Ninja Turtles movie, Mutant Mayhem. I fucking love this movie. Spoiler alert, right up front. If that's what you're looking for, you can go. I'm going to break it all down, though. I'm going to explain why I love this movie. There are things that I don't like. But overall, goddamn, what a movie. I don't know. I don't have any specific structured order, and I might be all over the place as I am just right out of the theater. Basically, just got home, sat my ass down in front of the computer, got my SpongeBob cup of coffee, which SpongeBob makes a cameo in this movie, kinda in a way. But goddamn, what a fucking movie. So let's talk about it. Went with my kids, went and checked out an earlier version. We didn't go too late. The theater was not very full. I don't know if it's just because it was like the after dinner. It was like the 6:30. I don't know if people were going to be at the later showings or what the deal was, but it wasn't really full. I don't know what that's going to say for the box office as I record this. It's a Friday night, so I don't know what the box office will be, but the people in the theater loved it too, by all accounts. Everybody was laughing their ass off the whole time. This was a funny movie. I laughed out loud more times than I can count. More than a handful, that's for sure. And the rest of the theater did too. And the theater, just an anecdote if you will, but the whole theater fucking applauded after the movie. I can't say that I've never heard that before, but I don't remember the last time I've heard that. I don't remember hearing it from any Marvel movie. I don't remember like Spider-Man, none of that shit. I think the crowd kind of popped when the Tobey Maguire reveal, I guess, in the last Spider-Man movie that I watched. But I don't know, this was like a genuine, wow, we appreciate this movie reaction at the end. The whole theater, everybody was clapping. I was like, wow. Basically a standing ovation for this film. If the animation is worrying you, I'm going to say that animation has come a long way in this movie. Changes the game for that. Credit where credit is due. It goes into the Spider-Verse, in my opinion, and probably even before that, Japanese anime. They've been on top of this for a long time, doing the animated movies and that sort of thing. And animated movies have always been a thing. I mean, God, if you're a Batman fan, there's a bajillion Batman movies, animated movies. Especially there's a Batman versus Ninja Turtles movie.
Hey guys, check it out! I'm Batman, and I'm riding a T-Rex, and I've never been so happy in my entire life!
Mikey, get down.
Nah, man. I live up here now!
You should listen to him.
Aww!
Highly recommend you seek that out. It's a nerd's fucking wet dream, but it's a straight to video thing. All of these movies have been straight to video, and that's why I say Spider-Verse changed the game, because it made a Hollywood blockbuster movie out of a cartoon superhero movie, essentially. Disney's been doing cartoon movies for years, right? Pixar, basically cartoons. Cartoon movies at the theater really aren't anything new. It's just that in this genre, it's always been straight to video shit. And if it's not live action, then what are we doing? And the Ninja Turtles movie back in 2007, the TMNT, got mixed reviews. So I was a fan of that. It certainly had mixed reviews and wasn't necessarily universally praised. I think this will be. The animation is phenomenal. That's what I was getting at. I don't know if you're, worried about, because this is an animated movie, is it going to be? No. This is so good. I'm going to say it's heavily inspired by Into the Spider-Verse, if you've seen that, with the comic book style animation that they do in Into the Spider-Verse. But it's not a copy. It's inspired by. But so it clearly looked at the Spider-Verse movie and said, okay, let's do something like that. Clearly that's passable now. That's doable. That's something that we can do, but let's do it different. Let's see how we can put our own spin on that. It's very much the same animation, but completely different, if that makes any sense. It's comic booky. It's, animated, but like it doesn't necessarily go for realism, but there's real elements in it. They're watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off at one point in the movie, and it's not cheesy. It works. It plays just fine. And then there's little things that we notice, like, action scenes would have kind of rough around the edges, like types of like action motion, and then like things we would notice, like the trees, for example, that would be in the foreground or the background, or sometimes just like scribbles, but it looked, so it was like abstractish, and I'm probably making it sound way worse than it was. It looked so cool. Whoever put the art design in this movie alone deserves a goddamn award. I think Into the Spider-Verse might have won an award when that came out. This needs to win an award. This was just fucking beautifully animated, and time was put into it. Tedious amounts, like every little detail. It's highly detailed, yet rough around the edges with the scribble trees and stuff. It's just, the animation is perfect. I still prefer live action. I say if the animation is throwing you off, because I'm certainly one of those people. But it just to me, it's an equivalent to Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse set the tone for, hey, a major motion picture can be a superhero animated movie, can look comic booky and fly, and it certainly did, and it was unique. I've never seen anything like it before. And though when you see it, and I'm sure you could tell by the previews, that the animation style is reminiscent of a Into the Spider-Verse style. It's certainly not a copy of it. It is its complete own look, and really just just blows me away. Classes it right up. The Turtles themselves are they're just done so perfectly. The Turtles were the first thing I noticed right from when there was the trailer was that the Ninja Turtles were teenagers. They were legit teenagers, and I appreciated that. That's something that has not really been done yet in any of the movies or even the cartoons. I think the 2012 version came close. I'm a very big fan of that. That might be my favorite adaptation of the Ninja Turtles, even more than the one I grew up on in the 80s, even more than the 90s movie. That 2012 cartoon, that's the one my kids grew up on, actually. That's the one that they would watch as, toddlers. And they loved it. And I loved it too. They brought in a lot of fan service, and it was clear that whoever made that were fans of the genre, and that was certainly the case with this too. It was made, I believe, by Seth Rogan and Evan something or other, their production studio. Seth Rogan, mixed opinions on him, perhaps, maybe, if you do or don't, whatever. I think he did a banger job on this. I really do. I think this was clearly made with love. This was clearly made with the intention of making a good Ninja Turtles property. They didn't Michael Bay it, they didn't just take something and fucking cash in on it and try to recreate it and do something stupid with it. They took creative liberties and they made changes, and we'll go over those. Spoiler alerts, by the way, in this. So turn back now. Haven't spoiled anything yet. You got my non-spoiler review, basically. But I'm probably going to start spilling details from this point forward. But the way that the Turtles were designed, they borrowed from the Michael Bay. Like, Michael Bay, I believe, was the first one to make Raphael bigger and more menacing. He's always been like, he was the wisecracker in the 80s cartoon, and then in the 90s movies, and then up through basically everything else, he was like the angry rage attitude guy, right? So everybody was teenagers, and they nailed like the personalities of teenagers down. Raph wasn't overly brooding or anything like that. He was more excitable, excited to get in a fight. He was more, of a loose cannon and always ready for a fight and ready to go and barge right in. One of the things Leo said, okay, now it's time to go loud. Raph likes to go loud, right? Fuck stealth. Let's just go in and start knocking skulls. It was that attitude. But they made him bigger. And the Michael Bay movies were pretty much the first movies I noticed that did that. First version of the Turtles that did that. And then since then, they had that more recent animation reboot that they tried to do that really kind of fucked up the Turtles and messed with their look, and they made Raph significantly bigger there too. And it just seems to be a thing that stuck with Raph as he's bigger and kind of scuffed up and stuff like that, and I liked that. They actually showed him get scuffed up in here too. There's a scene where his shell gets cracked, so you can see where the crack comes from that will make him look tougher and scarred up and stuff later. He's also got the full head bandana where everybody else got the mask. They had the letters, but you see the R there on the belt. They had the fucking letters on the belt, and they looked just like this. I loved it. Even Leo had the straps over his belt, the little things like that. But then there was dorky stuff too, like Donatello had a fanny pack, right? Donnie with he's a nerd, so of course he'd have a fanny pack, right? So just really cool things that they were doing with the look of the Turtles. I think Mikey was the shortest of the. No, maybe Don. Yeah, I think Mikey was the shortest of them all. Donnie was the youngest sounding, maybe the youngest acting. Maybe he was the baby of the four, even if they're twins. There's usually, one that's still the youngest in a sense. So they just nailed the look. They changed it just enough, but brought in enough new features. And then there was even something that they did later on in the show where they went to the Turtles spoiler alert. Turtles went to high school and they were dressed up in like normal people clothes and took the masks off and stuff. I believe they did that in the 80s cartoon. So I think, and where their clothes kind of matched their colors instead. I think that was kind of an homage to that. But, just good character design on the Turtles. Nothing to complain about. They had the same weapons, same overall personalities. Mikey was very chill, more chill than like party dude, I would say. He's a little bit more hip hop, a little bit more Miles Morales than maybe like surf for pizza dude, bro. But they were just great. No complaints at all. Leo was kind of a douche, like a tool, but like not hateable, not annoying. Donnie wasn't like as big of a nerd. He wasn't like inventing shit and in the science lab and teching out and stuff. But he was the guy with the gadgets and like the laptop, and like he's, the tech guy, obviously, still of the team. Couple big changes. They took a pretty significant risk with Master Splinter. Yeah, man, the fucking, where was I? Master Splinter, big difference, big change with Splinter. They made him more of like a fat old dad sitting in the lazy boy. The Turtles called him Dad. They did not call him Master Splinter. I actually liked that. I thought that was cool, and I thought that, look, it's not my favorite take of Splinter, but I didn't hate it. I don't mind when things try new. I used to be more stubborn about that, but what's the point of doing a new movie or a new version of something when you try to copy everything and make it exactly the way it was before? You have to make things your own to a certain extent, and the choice they made with Splinter was certainly a unique one. He was less ninja mastery. Don't get me wrong, he was still a ninja master. He still kicked ass, but he was like, a chubby dad on the recliner. And that's kind of what it was. But they really did a good job of playing him off with the kids. Splinter was dealing, the Turtles wanted they want to go outside. They want to go out into the world. But Splinter had bad experiences with humans in the past, and because he's a rat and humans want to kill him. that he knows that they're in danger if they go up to the surface and they get seen. They could get milked. That was a reoccurring thing, and that's a Seth Rogenism too, by the way, because he did it in Neighbors too. It was in Neighbors. He had a big long joke about milking. Might have been in another Seth Rogen movie too. He loves his milking, but that was the thing. We're gonna milk you. Splinter kept saying, which is kind of basically his way of saying they're gonna like put you in a lab and test you and poke you and take your blood and all that other stuff, which actually ends up happening. And there was a funny joke, and it sounds cheesy if I tell it to you, but it played so well in the theater, everybody died laughing. The turtles jumping way ahead here, but I'll come back around. The turtles got captured at one point, and they were hooked to a machine that was sucking the blood out of them, to collect like a mutant blood sample or whatever for whatever bad guy. And we'll get to that later. But it was Splinter came to the rescue, and he's they basically, the joke was that they were legit milking the turtles. And Splinter sees it, and he's just like, "Hey, what is that machine?" And they're like, "Nothing, it's nothing." Because he kept warning, "They're going to milk you. They're going to milk you." And they're like, "We don't even have nipples. You can't milk us." Total Seth Rogen joke, right? But then they zoom in on a little steel plate on the side of the machine that says it's the Mega Milker 2000 or something like that. Mega Milkatron 2000. It's a super cheesy joke, and I totally ruined it. Did it no justice there, but it was funny as fuck in the theater. Played great, crowd laughed, audience loved this movie. So Splinter was a choice, not my favorite choice, but I don't hate it. Whatever, you're gonna do different things as long as you don't fuck up the turtles, the core turtles, and they didn't. In my opinion, they did absolute justice by the turtles. The other one they played with was April O'Neil. April, as most movies these days, underwent a significant shape and skin color change. Which, look, I don't care. They gender bend and race bend characters all the time nowadays. And as long as it's not significant to the character itself, I don't care. Whatever. You know what I mean? So, do a black April O'Neil. I don't care. She was thicky, though. She was a thickie. I don't know if there's any wrestling fans out there probably listening to my channel. There's going to be some. But April was in the spirit of a willow nightingale is the best I can describe it. You can Google that if you're not a wrestling fan. But April was very willow nightingale-esque, which was fine. I mean, fine by me. Whatever. It worked. She was very cool. She was, I liked how they told, they've switched up her story also from, depending on what show or movie you're watching. And either she was a news reporter and she stumbles across the turtles, or she's, the turtles' age in more recent adaptations where she's more of a teenager too. They kept her a teenager, which I actually like the teenage version of April better. I liked her in the 2012 cartoon. I thought that was the perfect April. So I like that they did that. And then they did, they made her like a high school news, she worked for the high school newspaper and had aspirations of working for the news. And then they did a thing where she was able to like step on into the Channel 6 news set. Channel 6? Good reference there. And was able to kind of come full circle and fulfill her story arc, so to speak. The turtles were on a mission to be accepted. They were raised to believe that the world was against them, that people would hate them. And now look, some people will look at this and go, "Oh, that's woke," and blah blah blah, because it's loosely there's bigots out there that won't accept it. But this has kind of been the story of the Ninja Turtles, and it's not anything new. It's not modern. It's not woke. The X-Men was the same story. It's what the turtles they've told this story before. This is just something that unfortunately is still prevalent in today's society. So it's still something that, still a story that needs to be told in different ways. And that's something that they explored here in this, that the turtles were afraid that they would not be accepted. And they weren't. They were seen as monsters and stuff when they were spotted. But then it was April O'Neil to the rescue at the end, who was able to, when she jumped on Channel 6 News, tell the world that, hey, the turtles are the good guys here. They're not with the other guy. They're the good guys. They're trying to save the city. And then they were seen as heroes, and they were accepted by the people, and then that's how they ended up getting to go to high school and all of that. And that's where we left off for part 2. So April was cool, actually. I liked her. She was kind of nerdy, and she was, picked on in school, and just, she was a kindred spirit to the turtles because she was also seeking acceptance, and they were able to find it together, essentially. Very cool. And then the same story for the mutants. The overall story was acceptance, even the bad guys. They didn't do Baxter Fly. I think there's a gray area of copyright there for or trademark infringement for the movie The Fly. But Baxter Stockman obviously becomes Baxter Fly in the cartoon, right? But they didn't do that in this one. They did have Baxter Stockman at the beginning of the movie, but he was kind of the guy who was creating the mutagen, or at least had the initial lab going where he was experimenting. And he had a fly in there, a pet fly, a giant larva of some kind. I don't fucking know. And he was going to mutate that, or already did mutate that. And then he was in the process of making brothers for the mutated fly. So instead of becoming a mutated fly, he was creating a mutated fly who grew up to be a big bad villain by the name of Superfly, played by Ice Cube, voiced by Ice Cube, who did fucking great. I mean, he was just Ice Cube. He didn't play any particular character. It was like Ice Cube as a fly, There was even a line where he he busts through the door and was like, 6 a.m, police at my door. Ice Cube was in it, and he did good. That was the big bad. Bebop and Rocksteady, I would say, were a negative for me. And only because we haven't seen enough of them, and because they did a babyface turn towards the end. But they can save it. So here's what happened. So Baxter Stockman, when he was creating, he created his fly monster larva thing, mutant larva, and it was just a baby. And he was creating brothers, and the brothers ended up being Leatherhead, the alligator, and the salamander guy. Forgot his Mondo Gecko. That's who it is. Mondo Gecko, and some other familiar characters that I don't remember off the top of my head now. Too many to remember. There was a whole little group of mutants from the original Ninja Turtles cartoon, and Bebop and Rocksteady were just part of that. That was it. They didn't stand out separate from anybody else. They were just there as, quiet background henchmen. They barely had any words at all. Seth Rogan plays Bebop, and John Cena plays Rocksteady, and they barely had any lines at all. That was a little disappointing. And then they turned babyface at the end because they did a thing where because Superfly, Ice Cube, because the government or whatever came in and captured Baxter or killed Baxter or something like that, and he saw people as bad. And then there's a scene where he tried to go out in the public or whatever with his mutant homies, and they were all like screamed and thrown stuff at and shunned by society. So they came up with the idea to turn everybody into mutants so that they would all fit in. And humans would be the outcasts. That was the bad guy plot. Ha ha ha. But along the way, all the other mutants that were teaming with Super Duper Fly, your Mondo Geckos and such, Leatherhead, Bebop, Rocksteady, they all saw that because the turtles could be mutants and be good guys, maybe they would give that a try. They thought this was their only way. They thought they were the only mutants. They were misled by this fly fellow, right? So they see the light. They're all good at heart. They were just misled and brainwashed into thinking all humans wanted to kill mutants, and this was the only way that they'd be able to live in peace. And the turtles showed them otherwise. So they all turned on the fly. The fly turned into a giant fly. There was a fight there where the fly, Superfly, kind of went into a river, and it kind of seemed like it was going to be the end, and it was a little anticlimactic, and even my kid looked at me and was like, I don't know, it was a good movie, but the end was a little, meh. But then it kind of kicked up a notch into a higher gear where, like, Superfly comes out of the water even more mutated, like Super Shredder, and he becomes Super Duper Fly, and he's giant like Godzilla, and he's got, like, whales and shit stuck to him from the water. It's ridiculous, and only shit you can do with animation, but he started destroying New York, and the turtles were fighting to save it. And then April O'Neil went on the news when everybody was in a panic and told everybody that the turtles were fighting to save the city, and then the turtles were accepted in the end. There was a character who seems to be the head of TCRI, the mutagen makers. They are the evil corporation here, and they kind of left on the story that after the city thing and all of that happened, TCRI quietly went away, packed up and vanished, and just without a trace, the company. So it's a little fishy, and there's more to it than that. And there seems to be this evil woman who's in charge of TCRI. And there was a big cliffhanger in the credits, the post-credit scenes. It showed them going to school. And I'm kind of not a fan of like all of these other mutants, like the Mondo geckos and stuff, all in the first movie. But that's really just such a small critique. The end credit scene also shows this TCRI evil mastermind woman who also has eyes on the Ninja Turtles and has vowed to take out the Ninja Turtles. They're easy to find, but it seems they're going to be harder to destroy than I thought. Something to that effect. And then they pan, but I have a plan. Something like that. And then it shows the Shredder, like just the shadow of the Shredder staring at the city, like in a silhouette from like an island or maybe the top of a building or something, who knows. But it's just the silhouette, and he's all spiky, and it just makes him look like a fucking menace, right? Like, oh shit. Next, he's gonna raise some hell. Like, he's gonna be a threat, which I hope is what they do, because I did not like the 80s version of Shredder where he was just a goof and a putz and I mean, it was all comedy and stuff anyway, so it's fine. But the original comics, and then that first Turtles movie, especially the second one to an extent, and then certainly the 2003 Turtles series, really made Shredder very menacing. And then, they've kind of gotten back to that in recent years. That one, when I told you about Batman versus the Ninja Turtles, there are two fights between Shredder and Batman. And let me just tell you, holy shit. And who do you think would win that fight? Who you got in a fight between Shredder and Batman? Might surprise you. So worth seeking out. It's based on the comics. There's comics of it too, but at the very least watch the animated movie. But it left on that cliffhanger, and so kind of to wrap things up here, so that's basically what happened in a nutshell. So I'm going to give some final thoughts, theories, opinions, and then a star rating. We'll cut you guys loose here. Some final thoughts. That TCRI lady, the evil like boss lady that seems to be in control of everything, she's very like evil. Okay, well, next our plan will be like a Rita Repulsa almost in a way. She doesn't act like her, but you get the point, right? An evil mastermind lady boss. But this particular lady boss has these very unique square pink glasses. and wears yellow and pink and is very cold, almost unhuman-like. So, my kid is actually the first one to point this out to me, but he was spot on. That's Krang. It's Krang. This lady looks like the Krang robot from the 80s, but in a sleeker female version. There's no alien in the tummy. It looks lifelike, like an android, but it could be an alien, could be a shapeshifter, could be a robot body, but there's some giveaways that could be Krang. But it's a mystery at this point. They're building a universe. I believe there's already announced that they're going to be doing at least one more movie. I think there's 3, though. And then possibly even a TV series of some kind for Peacock. I'm all for it. I am bought in hook, line, and sinker on this new Turtles reboot. It's fucking phenomenal. The animation, top notch. As good as it gets. To me, it's as good as Into the Spider-Verse, but different and better, in my opinion. It's very comic booky, very raw and gritty and edgy, but yet detailed and intricate and sharp and well. It's just so well done. The character designs are all phenomenal. The changes that they did make were not so significant that it takes you out of it. They're just little. I think, the biggest changes are Splinter and April, but I think you're going to adjust to them just fine, and you're going to find that you like both of those characters by the end of it. You will. You might look back and go, I kind of like another version of this character from another project better, which is fair. I certainly feel that way about Shredder and April, though I really liked this April a lot. I'm very high on this April. More so than the 80s April, more so than any of the movies Aprils. I think the only one I would put above this April is the 2012 cartoon version. I really, really, really liked that April. But this one, she's good. She's very good, this Willow Nightingale. And, the Splinter is probably rock bottom of my list of Splinters. I don't hate him, though. It wasn't like, oh, God, why'd they do that? They fucked him up so bad. It was just a different take. And quite frankly, maybe a more needed take. Okay, a father figure instead of a ninja master. One of the other things I did not like about this was the way that they became ninjas. This is something they did in the Michael Bay movies too, and it pissed me off then, and I'm pissed off now too, because they're doing it wrong. I don't like this thing where you just get to watch a fucking ninja movie or two and you become a master. That's what they did in this one too. Same thing they did in the Michael Bay movie. Michael Bay, I think they were watching kung fu movies or whatever, which is more egregious. At least here it was kind of like how-to, karate 101s, like YouTube videos, right? Like you get lost on a YouTube video and you just to start watching karate 101 and they show you the stances and the poses and the fucking kick strategies and the weapons, and they just taught themselves through video, essentially. Is what happened. Splinter was a rat. The Turtles were turtles. They met up because when that lab that Baxter Stockman was working with the Fly and other creatures, when it was raided, a little jar of the chemical went down the drain into the sewer, and the rest, as they say, is history. But it's dope still. It's still very dope. Let's see, what other changes did they make in this movie? I liked that they showed the Turtles, like, their first opening ninja mission was, like, going to the store to get, like, groceries because they need shit for the pad, right? So I'm grabbing, like, toilet paper, paper towels or whatever, and just food. And Doritos got a couple nice plugs in here, and so did Pizza Hut. They got the hookup. So that was pretty cool too, because how did these guys, you notice in the 80s cartoon, they always had full fridges and shit, but where does all that come from? Well, here it shows they go out on little ninja missions and they basically shoplift and steal it, but they use their ninja skills. Ninja vanish. Creep up, and then they end up, they meet, I told you I'm going to be all over the place. When they meet April, it's because April is basically robbed, and they chase down the guys who robbed April stole her shit and ended up stumbling across something much bigger than just a little street hoodlum. You know, they stumbled into Superfly's crime syndicate, if you will. Got in a big scrap with a bunch of bad guys, learned that they're actually really tough and their ninja moves worked and their weapon skills were tight, and they just fucking nailed it. So then they got all hyped and wanted to keep going out and just scrapping, and the brother bonding was phenomenal. They didn't really fight or argue with each other. There was a little bit of teasing and bickering and stuff, but it wasn't like don't talk to me, I'm gonna get in a fight with you. And they were just they were more brotherly. They were besties, they were a crew, they were homies, you know what I mean? They were very much a brother team. They were very much kids. Lots of fun references, especially my kids being teenager ages. Like they referenced the Avengers movie. They talked about when they were fantasizing about being able to be seen out in public. They referenced the scene from Avengers Endgame where fucking Smart Hulk's at the diner, you know, big green monster, and kids are running up getting autographs from him and stuff. They're like, yeah, if we can just show them that we're nice guys, like Mark Ruffalo. So that was a good little reference that they had there. They played the Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go. They had that. I was thinking it was just playing in a car or something. There was a scene where they were in a car for a moment, and it was just playing, and fucking the music in general, the soundtrack, the score, phenomenal. Apparently Trent Reznor was in charge of the score. And another guy too from Nine Inch Nails. So basically, you know, Nine Inch Nails or half of Nine Inch Nails composed the score for this movie, and the score was great. It had very good tones for all the different moments and that sort of thing, you know, brooding when it needed to be brooding and so on, heartfelt. But the soundtrack itself was very hip-hop, very hip-hop influence. There's definitely a hip-hop spin on this, very also reminiscent of Into the Spider-Verse, but in a good way. You know, like New York is very much hip-hop, you know, especially depending on what suburb you live in or whatever, but I mean, that's where hip-hop comes from, you know? New York rap is huge in New York, you know, and so many huge rappers came from there that building that sort of hip-hop-esque culture into the Ninja Turtles doesn't bother me at all. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything else. I just think they just nailed it. There's just nothing... Just everything that they did with it. I have almost zero complaints. I wish they did more. Oh, the Bebop and Rocksteady thing. I wish they did more with them, and I wish they didn't turn babyface. But what they can do to salvage them, because this was only the first movie in what appears to be a trilogy, maybe they don't need such a huge part in the first movie. You know, they can be more prominent characters in future movies. Look, one of them's Bebop's played by Seth Rogan. He's the producer of the goddamn thing, so it's not like they're not going to get the actor again. John Cena, he'll do it, you know. So I hope they play a more prominent role in future movies, and I hope they what they could do, because I want to see them as bad guys again. I don't like them as good guys. Is when the Shredder comes to town, the Shredder basically like threatens to kill them if they don't obey him, and he kind of like makes them his henchmen by force. Threat of death and great bodily harm. So that could be a direction that they go with that could kind of salvage things. But other than that, man, they just knocked it out of the park, in my opinion. That's really, I'm sure I'm forgetting some things that I would have loved to say. You know, pizza was a big part of this. Pizza Hut got the plug in this one. You know, it was Domino's in the 90s movies, but pizza, they ate lots of pizza in this movie. Pizza was their jam. Pizza. There was no cowabungas or anything like that. They were more straight, kind of like the 2003, but not. You know, they were still goofy. I laughed my ass off at this movie. There were jokes upon jokes upon jokes, and then cool stuff too, like stuff for the kids. You know what I mean? Like they mentioned, you know, you got no Riz, which is like a thing that the kids say now, and my kids popped at that. They're like, oh, he said Riz. So it's like a new short for charisma or something, trying to pick up chicks. They were laughing. I think they were making fun of Leo for trying to pick up April, thinking he could pick up April, and they're like, not with that, not with the riz you got, something to that effect, and that made the boys pop, So lots of little things like that. It's just so good. It's all I can say about it, man. I'm so proud of this movie. I'm happy for them. I'm glad. I hope it's a big hit. I hope people come out in droves to see it. I hope it gets great reviews. I have not gone on YouTube to watch many reviews yet, but I'm going to. I'm going to dive in, and I'm very excited to see what I see. Zero complaints here. Some things I maybe wasn't super happy with, but nothing. I told my kids when we were walking in, I said, here's what I want out of this. I want to laugh my ass off, and I want to not hate it. And by not hate it, I mean they better not ruin anything. Don't fuck up any characters. Don't change anything and make it stupid. I feel like the things that they did change were perfectly fine, in my opinion. So it worked. You gotta, if you're gonna reboot something that's been around since the 80s, you have to put different spins on it. And this really just freshens them up, brings them to an even more modern age. They're just perfect. What else can I say about it? I'm going to go ahead and give this, I thought about it. I don't give half stars, I should, but I use the emojis when I write up reviews, and you can't do like a half star emoji. So, or I use the hearts, and you can't do a half heart emoji. I probably could if I looked for it. It doesn't matter. I don't need my fucking explanation. I don't do half stars. So it's either got to be a 4 or it's got to be a 5 hearts. And though this was not a perfect film, it's not like film legend Hall of Fame, preserved for cultural significance at the fucking museum or anything. But I gotta go 5 hearts on this. There's no reason to go 4. They didn't mess anything up. They left more on the table. Sure, they didn't go as big and as hard as they could, but they're telling a story. They left a cliffhanger. They have a mid-credit scene. I did not stick around to see if there's a very, very, very end-credit scene, but the mid-credit scene's highly significant and really sets you up for the next one. They're in high school now. They're accepted by everybody as heroes, and they're cool kids, and April's on her way, and April's friends with them now, but the Shredder's coming to town, and TCRI wants to get the Turtles, and that's where we're leaving it off. And it's plausibly Krang in charge of TCRI, so that's what we're looking at. What are your thoughts? I am curious if you saw this movie. I want to hear your thoughts. Did you like it? Did you love it like I loved it? Anything you hated? Did you hate the whole thing? Or was there anything in particular that you're like, yeah, all of it was good, but that was really fucking stupid and I hated it? I just don't see it. There was nothing there that really... I just thought it was about as perfect as it could be. I would probably still say the original Ninja Turtles 1990, what was it, 91 movie was probably my favorite still. Maybe Turtles 2 Secret of the Ooze and then this one, or maybe this one then Secret of the Ooze. Secret of the Ooze was my favorite as a kid. But it is the more cartoony of the two. We don't count the third one. That doesn't count. Turtles in Time or whatever, the fucking travel one. Never happened. In fact, it exists in the same nowhere nonsense fake universe that never existed as that Next Mutation show with the rubber suits and the fucking fifth turtle Venus or whatever. No, none of that ever happened. It's not a real thing. Neither was a third Ninja Turtles movie. That's a joke. That was a meme that somebody created up online. There's only 2, Turtles and then Secret of the Ooze. Both of those are, top tier Turtles movies in my opinion. The first one, probably a little bit grittier and darker and more realistic and probably the better of the 2 movies. But this one's right up there with those. I mean, this is a damn near flawless Turtles movie. That's just all I got to say about it. You got to go in open to change. You got to go in with an open mind and kind of excited to take the ride. Don't go in with your arms crossed going, you better impress me and do this right. You gotta kind of sit back and go, okay, what are these guys gonna do with this property that I love? I'll give it a chance. And I think you're gonna walk away more than pleased. I think I was absolutely glowing, and so was the rest of the audience. Like I said, standing ovation, fucking everybody was clapping. This is a 5-heart movie. I absolutely recommend you get off your ass and go to the theater and watch this ASAP, especially if you're a Turtles fan. Go watch this movie this weekend. Do it. That's it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm going to finish this coffee and watch a bunch of YouTube reviews on this bitch, work on the thumbnail, and get this uploaded ASAP. And then I'm going to SummerSlam tomorrow, if you're a wrestling fan. Peace, love, and pizza. I am your boy, Seth Grimes, and this has been my review for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, the animated movie 2023. 5 hearts, as good as I can rate it.